Hello, this is AA Beyond Belief, a podcast by, for, and about people who have found a secular path to sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is John, and I'm your host, and I'm here today with my co-host, Angela. Angela, how you doing over there?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I was telling you earlier that I felt like I was exhausted, and already I'm perked up.
Right.
So it's
As
amazing
soon
that
as
what
as
this.
soon as your music goes on, you're
Uh
like,
huh.
and I'm ready.
I'm on. We're on. We're
Yeah.
live here on Facebook, another live stream, Facebook and YouTube.
Yay.
So, and today's topic is going to be about self care, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I wanted to kind of go through some announcements first of all, to kind of get us started. Um, I talked a little bit about the ICSA online conference that'll be coming up on December 5th, and that's still on. And I was really surprised. I went into the secular AA email, and we got a lot of email from people that were interested in the conference, interested in participating, and so forth. And I have been the email guy and not really good at responding. So I apologize for that. But I'm going to appoint a email responder who will get with all of you who are volunteering for to do things at the conference. I tell you one thing, we already have a comedian, and that's pretty cool. And
Nice.
yeah, yeah, and I think that it's going to be real. It's going to be a lot like just a regular conference, except for it's going to be online. So like we'll have like different rooms where you can have things going on at the same time. That way you can decide, if you want to go to this workshop or that workshop. Plus we'll have a speaker, that everybody will be there for that particular speaker. And I
Hmm.
believe that Greg told me that one of the speakers that was lined up for the original ICSA that was going to be going on in October is already scheduled for this online one. And yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be coming up here really soon. And also some good news for me personally, and also for the rest of the world who's interested in the secular AA website. I think that we're going to be having a new webmaster pretty soon.
Oh,
She's
cool.
yeah, she's setting up a time to talk with Sam, who chairs the board for secular AA, and I think that she's totally capable of doing it. And I think she's. I hope to God. I hope to God. And as an atheist, I hope she works. I hope she wants to do it because we really need someone who could do it.
Yeah.
It's just I can't handle it. And another thing, a fun thing, is our Facebook group has started a book club, and I think there's quite a few people that are interested in doing it. And so it's going to start in November, and they're going to read "Staying Sober Without God" for the first month. And so what they're going to do during the month of November, everybody's going to read that book, and then at the end of the month, they're going to get together, I think, on Zoom and talk about it. So I decided that I'm going to do that. I think it'll be fun, and I think it's cool that they're doing that. So if you're interested, and if you're a member of our Facebook group, I'll make sure that I make that post as an announcement so you can find it. And if you're not a member of the Facebook group, you can join it. Just go to Facebook and look up AA Beyond Belief, and you can join the Facebook group and participate in that book club. So I thought that was a lot of fun. And I wanted to, Angela, I got a really nice letter from someone. His name is Bernie, and he wrote a nice letter and sent $20, and I appreciate that.
Nice.
And he wrote a nice letter about how the podcast has helped him. He's a painter, and so
Oh,
he listens to the podcast while he works. And he's a former Christian, and so he's having a really tough time with sobriety, and
oh,
it's really helped him to know that there is a secular path. So he's
okay.
really excited about the books he's learned about and different things like that. And he did have a question though for us that I thought I'd go ahead and read. And maybe Angela, you can help him with that, and maybe people in the chat room can help as well answer this question. So here it is. I have become so accustomed to drinking alone lately. I need to get involved in some meetings, but I am freaked out by Zoom. I have even heard you say that knowing the people makes the Zoom meetings easier. Any suggestions would be appreciated. Thanks for your time. Please thank Angela and Ben also. So that's, his question is basically he feels nervous about the Zoom meetings, doesn't really feel comfortable with it, and he just is looking for maybe a suggestion or two for what would make the make it a more comfortable experience for him.
Okay. Well, thank you for reaching out to us. My first thoughts are to look for meetings that, I guess it depends on what part of the Zoom freaks you out.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's the actual technology and not being very familiar with that, then finding a small meeting where people can easily help you would probably be good. There's a lot of different meetings, and if you are in the Facebook group, that's a good way to learn of which ones might be there. You can say that you're interested in attending one, and a smaller one, or maybe a little bit of what it is that you're apprehensive about, and people there will volunteer their information. So if they have a smaller group, then they might send you a message privately of what their group information is, or if it's that you're just shy, you can join some of the larger meetings and have
Yeah. Yeah.
have just
Kind
a
of,
picture,
yeah.
and so
You
that
don't have to do
no,
anything but sit back and
right.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you can start to get to know people that way, and you can start to get to know personalities. And then when you're, ready to, you can, join with your video and stuff like that.
Yep.
So those are a couple of ideas that come to mind
I would also
for
suggest he
people.
check out the Oh My God meeting. And I know that's a huge, giant meeting,
Hmm.
but it's a fun meeting.
Yeah.
And maybe that might be a little freaky too. But it's a fun meeting. But also, they will break down into smaller groups if for new people, so that if you wanted
Hmm.
to ask questions and stuff like that, if that's the thing, it's like we don't really know what's freaking you out, so it's hard to say. Is it the big
Yeah.
crowd that freaks you out? Is it the small crowd?
Yeah.
What
Is it that
so
there's sometimes slightly different language? If that's the
yeah,
case, then Oh My God is kind of a good one too, because they do tend to use a lot of the traditional language. At least the meeting that I attended, from what I could tell, they do.
yeah,
And so that would be a good transitional meeting
yeah.
that you might be somewhat familiar with if you've attended other AA meetings before.
And
Um,
Joe says you can keep your video off too. Some
yeah.
groups do insist you turn the video on, but I think most will allow you to have it off. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it depends on the kind of meeting and what the meeting's experienced as far as Zoom bombers and stuff. So,
yeah,
but I think the majority of open meetings and co-ed meetings
yeah,
are okay with video
yeah,
being off. I think
yeah.
it's a lot of the
I
specific gendered meetings
Yes.
or
And
what
that was
stuff like
important
that.
for the Sober She Devils simply because they did have people that were just there for nothing but to cause trouble.
Yeah,
And they weren't women. So
yeah.
that was they absolutely had to identify people. Are you a woman? And are you here? Are you serious about about being in an AA meeting? So
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah,
and specifically with, like with that one, is that they learned how to have you, go into a main room where they can, either have you turn on the video or, vocally say you identify as a woman or whatever it is, their protocol. Now I still go to them, but I don't, stick around to to
yeah,
see what all the details are. But then you can turn your video off again, which is what I generally do during most meetings that I don't have to have it on for,
hmm,
because it's easier for me to pay attention to others when I don't have my face on the screen.
absolutely,
Because
yeah,
otherwise, I'm worried that that I'm doing
yeah.
something stupid or whatever. so so anyway,
So there you go,
um,
Bernie. There's a
yeah.
few tips for you, and you can always check out this live stream too. That might be fun if you want to do that. If you're probably going to listen to this episode at some time, and so go to our YouTube channel if you don't know that we have a YouTube channel, and you can find out about our live streams. And speaking of YouTube, okay, so I'm
Mhm.
doing something a little bit different now, and I'm really surprised that our YouTube channel qualifies for this. But we qualify now for having memberships. So it's kind of like, hi Peter. it's kind of like Patreon, which I never really did anything with as far as giving little perks, but YouTube's going to make it a lot easier. So anyway, you can sign up to be a member of the YouTube channel, and like for like different tiers, you get like these different little perks. So like the first tier is like $1.99 a month. And with that, you get these emojis that I myself created. And I know I'm not good about that, so we might want to create more emojis later. And I mean, just silly things like that, and being able to have, I think, some private, oh yeah, private community messages, just small little things like that. But then the next level up, what I'm going to do with that one is you're going to be able to have member only videos. So what I'm going to be doing on that is whenever I do a audio podcast interview, I'm going to ask the guest if they don't mind if I video it, right? And then I'm going to post the video for members only to view on the YouTube channel. And yeah, that's right, Peter. I'm going to hide the video and put it in the Zoom thing. And that way I can do that, and I'm still complying with the anonymity thing, because if people don't like it, some people think that, if you show your face on YouTube as an AA member, it's really kind of breaking that 11th tradition. So I can do this that way. Only members only get to see the video, and I still have the fun of doing a video. So anyway, if we're doing that, and then I'm going to do, and Angela, I'd love to have you join me too, but I'll commit to doing like a live stream for members only. And that might be interesting in the beginning, because like right now we only have like 5 members, and one of them is me and one of them is Angela. So anyway, so we're doing that. But it was kind of fun to learn that I could do that on this channel. And then I started thinking about Patreon. And for Patreon, I really need to start doing things like that on Patreon. So I'm going to try to do that too. Just find little things, because we have 37 people on Patreon that donate a total of $200 a month. And that really helps out tremendously. And I need to show appreciation and engage those patrons a little bit more, to let them know that what they do really matters to me, and that I can give back a little bit. So like I've got perks on Patreon, but I've never done anything with it. But now I think I'm going to do like on Patreon what I'm doing with the YouTube channel. That way you kind of get a little special stuff. Like right now, what I'm doing, I'm filming like a behind the scenes thing. It's weird. Anyway, stuff like that. So anyway, I just want to thank all of you who support the podcast. It really does help a lot, and I hope that I can give back a little bit more. So I think that's all I have to say for announcements. Although there are some interesting podcasts coming up. I talked to that David Whitesock this week. Very interesting guy. Really enjoyed that conversation, and we'll be posting that really soon after the Secular Al-Anon podcast.
Okay.
So anyway, there you go. Self-care.
Yeah.
How about that?
What do you think?
What do you know about it, Angela? What is self-care to you? Because, it can mean a lot of different things to different people, and I'm sure it can mean different things at different points of your life too. So for me to ask you, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you now, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I'd say that it changes. When I hear it in the context of, recovery community and stuff, it still kind of makes me gag a little bit. I have an aversion to it, because what comes up to mind is, wealthy women in bubble baths and, going to get a pedicure and things like that, which are all perfectly fine things to do. Yes. But I just have this part of me from growing up, poor that has, feelings about that. And so that's usually my first thing when somebody's like self-care. I'm like, bleh. But the truth of it is that one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it, or agreed to talk about it, was that that it's come to mean for me mainly mental health care. Basically is self-care of making sure that I'm in a regulated emotional state
Yeah.
as best as I can be. And with things that are happening this week in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a very stressful time. It's been a stressful time for a lot of reasons, and it's going to continue.
Yeah.
And I know our northern neighbors are, wondering if the meth house is going to explode
I
on Tuesday,
know.
and and it might. So we apologize for any. Well, I apologize. Most Americans would not, but um, yeah, it's going to be stressful, and
Yeah.
so thinking about it, trying to plan ahead is a little bit of what I learned in early recovery is like at meetings, particularly for newcomers or when the topic was geared for people who are new, there'd be stuff like the upcoming holidays.
Yeah.
How do you get
Yeah.
through those sober, and so how are we going to get through this sober? And
Yeah.
it's a lot of the same things as you think of the different scenarios, and what you can do to stay safe, and in sobriety, with whatever the scenario is. So if you're going to a Halloween party, there's always the take your own keys, and
Right.
bring your own beverage, and go with a friend who knows that you're in sobriety, and
And if you're
you know
that uncomfortable, don't even go. You have a right not to go,
exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn all of these different things that generally don't occur to us when we're busy self-medicating or whatever it
Right.
is that we do. And so yeah, so I think some of those things apply to this situation as well, and where we're at right now in general. And one of the things I thought of was that in the beginning we often talk, at least in AA, as it being, you have to do it for yourself. You have to get sober for yourself, and be selfish about your sobriety and stuff. And I think some of self-care relates to that as well. Is that it's hard, or it's difficult to be the skillful people we want to be
Yeah.
when we're in fear and stressed out, and all of that. And there are those of us in the community who still tend to get triggered fairly easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so having a plan of how you're going to get through some things is a good idea. So
It's
for
interesting that
me,
you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's interesting that you said about get sober for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. That was the
Hmm.
first advice I got, and it was before I
Hmm.
even stepped into the room of my first meeting. It was actually when I got fired,
Yeah.
and it was the HR lady who told me that, and she was like really concerned for me. And I thought
Hmm.
about that, and it actually did it did help me because I thought, you know what? I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I'm not going to try to tell everybody, okay, everybody, I'm getting my life together. It was just, you know what? I'm going to do this for me.
Hmm.
And it was the hardest thing. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. But it was totally worth it. And it got easier, as time went on. But that was probably, if you talk about self care, I wouldn't even called it that at the time. But
Right.
just the idea that, okay, this is me taking care of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
agree.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's a conversation, and we're not
Yeah.
adversarial. So
No,
I think it's okay if it happens
it'll
sometimes.
happen.
And I've also learned to talk over you when I really feel like it. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, self care. So where was I
Oh,
at
you're talking
on
about
that?
what it means to you.
I thought that was the whole
Oh, you
thing
already
for
said
tonight.
that.
Yeah, no.
Well, I was thinking about it for myself personally,
Mhm,
and I wrote down some things like in priority order and
mhm.
probably in the order of what's important to me now at this time of my life.
Okay.
And they're just basically one words, like boundaries would be the first thing for me.
Mm,
It's like, and for me that means knowing when to say not to commit myself to overcommit myself basically is what it means to me. So my boundaries would be to say that, you know, I, don't expect me to do this or that, and it's okay for me to say no. I really need to learn to do that. And it kind
mhm,
of goes along with the next one, which is balance, which is
mhm,
which is what I need a lot. I need more balance in my life so that again, I just feel like I'm overextended in a lot of different areas, and I'm really trying to work on extricating myself from a lot of things, like the secular AA website, for example, and the secular
Yeah.
AA Gmail and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of focus on less and maybe more important things, like the
Mhm.
third one being connection, relationships with
Mhm.
people, important to me. And my wife and I now spend a lot more time together because she lost her job,
Mhm.
and so she's around the house all the time. I work at home all the time, so
Right.
we're like here. There's a pandemic going on, so we don't ever go anywhere. So that's just us. And so, maybe spending more time with her and connecting with her more, it'll be important. And then another thing, and I won't go through the entire list, but creativity. Just having a creative outlet for me, and that's always been important for me, for as long as I can remember. I'd always have something that I needed to do as some sort of a diversion that would engage that part of my brain that I don't otherwise get to use, I guess. So that's a little bit of a list of things that I'm thinking about for myself.
Yeah. Well, those make sense. I think usually when I think of it, I think more of specific actions, but those are all, important things for self-care, or what is helpful to think about
Yeah.
when you're engaging, or the like it, the title says the importance of self-care. It's
Right.
important to do these things in order to maintain stuff like boundaries and things
And that's
that
the hard part.
reinforce
That's
your,
really the hard
yeah,
part, is the taking the action to do that. I'm
yeah.
starting to a little bit now with getting some more balance in my life by just, letting people know that, what, I'm stressed out. I can't handle it. I need help, telling people that. And I've been doing that lately. And because I needed to, otherwise I wasn't doing anything good for myself or anyone else.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Jackie says she
it's
feels like
true.
the never say no to AA is a setup to not take care of yourself. You mentioned that before for yourself too,
Hmm.
Angela, that you had
Yeah,
to do that for yourself too.
right. It took a while. And it was on. I went to like a workshop on the fourth step, I think, and so that was something that I wrote down on the quickie inventory thing we were doing. Was that was part of the resentments of the principles and institutions, I think, category.
Hmm.
Was the never turned down an AA request. And yeah, and I had resentment about that because it is a boundary
Yeah.
issue, and that I would say yes to things because I thought I should, and then I would resent, the person who asked me because I didn't really want to do it. Or if I said no, I'd feel guilty about it. So either way, it was pretty much a setup for a resentment. And so I needed to learn how to uh, pause, and say, if I really wasn't willing to do it, or if I just didn't know whether I wanted
Hmm.
to or not, being able to say, let me think about that, or I really don't think that works for me, or something along those lines. But
And
you
there's
know,
nothing selfish about it either.
right,
And I think
exactly.
that was the thing that the group that I went to, um, was really focused on the self-centeredness aspect of
Mm-hmm.
what they thought that we were. They thought we were all self-centered, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
I kept being told over and over that was my problem. So that kind of sets you up for that trap too. Is like, oh, you better not be a selfish bastard. Better volunteer to do this or that. But
Yeah, yeah. No, the getting some sort of balance with our ego is difficult as humans. So it's not something that is totally relegated to those who have addiction problems or issues like that. So finding some sort of a balance is important because I do know that I can also be out of balance, if I'm not doing anything, or if I'm saying no to everything and then I start to isolate and stuff. So trying to get that in between of pushing myself a little bit to try something new once in a while, or that's actually not too hard for me. I guess if it's learning, it's hard for me if it's like a food thing. I'm not adventurous as far as food. But anyway, yeah, I do know that I will sometimes just say no because of fear
yeah,
or laziness.
yeah.
So trying to find that balance in between, and yeah, and generally when I'm trying to focus or bring my attention to what I'm doing for self-care, I let most of those things go, shoulds or, stuff like that. I try to really be concentrating on what's going on with me and what I need to do to soothe in the healthiest way possible. Sometimes, that's there's not a lot of options there, or I feel, it has to do with my emotional bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, with everything that's going on, it's I don't have a lot of emotional bandwidth to be able to do some really serious introspective work. I need to just do some coloring, take my dog for a walk, chat with some friends a little bit, and I've been watching some shows with my mom. Little things like that, and being okay with that. So, if I didn't get a long list of stuff accomplished today, which was the case, I got stuff accomplished, but, not the long list of things that I would have liked to. I'm still okay with it because, it's where I'm at right now, and I'm not having high expectations of myself, I guess, is where I'm at for self-care, is that, not pushing myself too much.
We have a caller. I wasn't paying attention. And it's really cool. The caller also sent a text message of an article on psychologytoday.com. I'm going to see if I can post that. And I'm going to go ahead and speak with the caller. I'm going to answer you the phone call. Here we go. Hello. There we go. Hello, how are you?
Hello, this is Fred.
Oh,
This is Fred in Virginia.
Hi,
Good.
Fred.
Hey,
Boy,
Fred.
it's been a while
Hi,
since
Angela. Hi, John.
I didn't hear from you last week. I was wondering how you were doing.
Well, I listened to you a couple of weeks, but I never butted into the conversation because it sounded like you had everything.
We had it
all
pretty
the
much
thoughts
covered.
I was thinking of. But I think nowadays women really take care of themselves better than men.
You think so?
I think they're into exfoliating, yoga, all kinds of things to make them feel better about life. Get out of depression, get out of feeling blah. I think women have more strategy than men. Men go to work, they might go to the gym, if they're with their loved ones, that kind of is self-gratifying in a way, whether it's care emotionally or physically. We have all those things to think about. But I think women are more into self-care. They want to look good all the time. They want to feel better. That's why they're so attractive.
Yeah. Well, you texted. Did you text this thing, this Psychology Today article? Did that come from you?
Yes, I did. I think it was some time ago.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that was a while ago. Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I think
all
it
right.
was some time ago.
I just never noticed it before. So what do you do for self-care?
I've said a number of things like that. Oh, I exercise in a chair. I'm older.
Yep.
And I like to stay clean and self-care mentally.
Yeah.
I'm isolating right now. I haven't really had contact with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I read. I read like crazy. And I think that I try to get online with some people that I love, but sometimes I'm not happy with what they say.
Yeah.
Because problems are everywhere.
Yeah.
And some people have it worse than you do, and we really don't share our problems a lot of times with others because we just keep the difficult things under our hats and try to comfort them.
Yeah.
You know, alcoholics are really not too smart sometimes. You know, the only person I ever heard call an alcoholic smart was somebody in AA. They said, "Oh yeah, alcoholics really are really smart. Well, why'd they drink in the first place so alcoholically if they weren't?"
True.
You know,
Well,
but
Fred,
I don't know. You know.
well, I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much. I think I'm gonna go on to the people who've been posting some comments in the chat room and respond to some of those. But thank you so much for calling. And
Okay.
I'm sure that we'll talk to
Go
you.
ahead.
We'll talk to you before Thanksgiving, I'm sure. So stay in touch. We'll talk to you next week, maybe.
Yeah, good to hear
I
from
don't
you,
know.
Fred.
All right.
I'm invited to a friends for Thanksgiving,
Oh,
so
good.
that'll
I'm
be
glad.
nice.
I'm glad to hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, take care.
Okay, well,
Bye bye.
good luck. Good luck with the podcast and all the
Thank
plans
you.
you have.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Well, that was good. Good to hear from him. I haven't heard from him for a little while. I was hoping that he's doing okay. I'm glad he is. So
Yeah.
a couple comments in there. Paula, I relate to. She said
Oh, yeah.
that about exercise. She said that it's so important to her, but it was one of the things that she resists the most. Same thing here.
Yeah.
That and actually meditation is another one that I resist a lot. And then Janet said that she's glad that you mentioned self-soothe, because having a variety of ways that she can do that's hard when alcohol was the only soothe mechanism.
Yeah.
So, and she says that she's loving the 10% Happier app Election Sanity Challenge. I haven't heard about that. I have to check that out. The 10% Happier apps Election Sanity Challenge.
Cool. Yeah.
I'll check it out.
I have that book. I haven't read it.
Oh, yeah?
It's one of my things of when I listen to podcasts and stuff, and then I'm like, I'm getting that book, and then I get the book, and sometimes I don't get to those books. I'm familiar with the book. I didn't know that they had an app, so I'm guessing that from what I know of the person who wrote it and the book, it sounds like it would be a great thing. So
It's free, she says.
so very cool. The exercise thing, I'm definitely with you on that. Again, swimming is my favorite form of exercise, and because of the situation that I'm in with helping my mom, I can't go, even though the Y is open and stuff. It's just not a smart idea for my mom's health. And so I haven't been able to do that. And so the other thing I do is take my my canine on pedestrian experiences. And some of you know, and I explained to John before, that the canine is in the room with me, and he's a border collie and very smart. So I have to rephrase common things because he knows the words and puts them together and then gets excited. Right. And so we don't do he doesn't spell, so we don't do the WALK thing, so that's sometimes how we say it, but when I do go out for that, which I do whenever I have him, I always feel better, and like most people say, when they exercise, they usually feel better. But it's still not the first thing that I want to do. It's always like, I gotta, get ready and go do this. But it was nice. I mean, it was a warm day here. It was, I think, 67 degrees, and so a nice fall day, and leaves and all of that kind of fun stuff. So it was good. The other thing is, I think I mentioned last week the book that I read on breath, the new science of an old art or something like that. It's been really helpful to me. There's lots of breathing exercises, so that's one thing that I like about it, is that it's not necessarily framed as meditation or anything like that. There are breathing exercises you can do that are not meditative, and one of them, you'll have to check out the book or the guy's website and stuff like that, so that you can, sue him if something bad happens. But but for me, one of the things is breathing fast actually when I wake up, and shortening my breaths and doing more so that I actually feel like getting out of bed. That's been kind of difficult in the last week or so with some stressing, things going on.
Sure.
And so, yeah, so I love that book for, giving me some ideas for that. Because usually when you're talking about breathing and meditation and stuff, it seems more like you're supposed to be doing like a Zen type of thing. And this isn't very, very Zenful, but it's helpful. So just becoming more aware of my breath has been something I've been doing for self-care this week, and finding that helpful.
Yeah. Nancy mentions creativity, as I did, and I wonder. I know that you make cookies. Do you consider that part of your do you consider that like self-care? Is that kind of something that relaxes you?
I used to. I haven't really this year.
Okay.
But yeah, it was. I started out with cupcakes. Actually, it was when cupcakes were big. So like over a decade ago, when I got sober and and got my own place several years into my sobriety. I started doing cupcakes and learning how to do that, and then doing all sorts of fun designs and flavors and different things on there. And then that transitioned into cookies, and learning some different techniques for cookie design, and so it became very meditative for me. I did that. When it took a lot of effort because there's so much you have to do, to prep. So the prep part of it, always took a long time. But once I got to sit down and actually do the design and stuff, it was very much a meditative practice, and someplace that I could get into a flow state. And I also enjoyed that, that people ate them. And so, and it was always funny to me that people were surprised that they tasted good, because usually pretty cookies don't always taste good. But that, that it went away. So it was, I guess, ephemeral. And so that seemed very spiritual in a way that I could accept. Type of a thing, that that it was something that I did for other people generally, and to give away, but it also was something that was creative and meditative, and then it went away. So so that was something that, but I've tried a whole bunch of different stuff, I do like to learn. And so that was one of the things. And I've shared before, hula hooping was another one that, I wanted to learn how to hula hoop. And so I learned how to hula hoop, and then I learned how to make hula hoops, and, stuff like that. So, cool. So these, the big thing that I'm going to be doing is something that I've actually attempted before, or I've signed up to do before. I think I mentioned it last week, but I've never completed it, which is the NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that starts on Sunday.
Wow. And that seems like a lot of hard work, but it could also be, I can also see how it would be relaxing too, and it's something good for you to exercise part of your brain that needs to be exercised, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Well, one of the main reasons I'm doing it is not actually for I guess, exercising my brain, or the creativity, although, I'll be able to use both, hopefully, but it's mainly for attention. So it's very much for the self-care part, is that I'm using it as a way to direct my attention for the month of November.
I see.
Because, because whatever, it's going to be crazy, no matter what happens on Tuesday, it's just going to be a crazy month. And so rather than doom scrolling, which is a term I heard about last night, thanks, Jackie, which is scrolling through your social media and just getting more and more alarmed and stressed out, I'm going to use that time to be writing. And for the NaNoWriMo, you're trying to get 50,000 words in a month. And so there's really, no excuse for me to be spending time, doing much else,
Just a good way to shift your focus to something
exactly.
positive. Yeah. Off all the craziness.
Exactly. And so I've committed to doing that. And that is one thing that, I have learned in recovery, is that I have that ability to direct my attention. I can't always do it, when I'm under duress and stuff, but I've really committed to doing that for this month, and I think it's important. And so I'm prepared to put my attention in that direction. And I don't actually have a specific novel that I'm planning to write. I'm just planning to write everything.
Right.
And I have a lot of things to write. So I'm just going to get it all out, and I'll do some of it by hand and most of it, on the computer and stuff. But just putting my direction there anytime that, I get tempted to doom scroll or anything else. It's like I have a project. And so that's one of the ways that, I'm going to do self-care for next month, actually.
Well, Indy Arthur here says that he collects, or he or she, I'm sorry, I don't know, but collects different models of Swiss Army knives. And I think that hobbies like that and collecting things can be good, like what you're talking about, to shift your attention to something else, just to focus on something other than whatever calamity might be going on in the world. I've had hobbies like that too. Actually, when I'm editing a podcast, for me, that's something that kind of helps me focus on that task, and takes me away from all the other gibberish that's going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and it can be a little bit of all of the above, I guess.
Yeah.
For what self-care and what the purpose is of it. Sometimes it is just finding something to redirect, your attention at a time of duress, and that can be helpful. And sometimes, it's what you need to do to take care of yourself while you're processing difficult things. So while you're, doing your fourth step or something like that, that having different things that you do for self-care, like going for walks or, taking a bubble bath or, whatever it is, planning for something where you can do something that's less emotionally or mentally straining will be a way of doing self-care. But I do, think that it can be a difficulty if it's being used to avoid some sort of emotional thing in your path that you need to actually address. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, Bob was asking about, he wanted to know, I said, we're talking about both. He says, are we talking about what we do for self-care, or where does self-care fit into our program of recovery? I would say both, although I probably haven't really talked about how I fit it into my program of recovery, I guess. But, I know that, that Staying Sober Without God, he does go into that a lot. He goes beyond the 12 steps. Right. If I think about my program of recovery, that's really how I live my life. It's not necessarily the 12 steps, but it's everything. It's about how I live my life. So it would include self-care. So like, if I'm into meditation or yoga or anything like that I just incorporate that, I guess, as my program of recovery. It's something that brings me some serenity, peace, calm, whatever. It helps me. So yeah, I think that, I don't know. I don't, it's hard for me to say I have a program of recovery. I don't know how to separate that from just my lifestyle or what I do, I don't know. Do you have thoughts about that?
I think after a while that it becomes, kind
of merged.
Part of your program of recovery. But, talking about specific things that people do is important. Yeah. And one of the things that I thought would be helpful for tonight, of people posting or calling in and sharing things, very specific things that work for them, or, that they do for
And the phones
self-care.
are open, by the way. If you would like to call, we'd welcome it. It's 844-899-8278. Feel free to call. Phones are open. No t-shirts to give you, though. No t-shirts for the first caller or whatever. But maybe someday we can do that. You never know.
Yeah.
So,
For your Patreons or something.
yeah, for the patrons. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thinking about other things for self-care and no, jeez.
That's that bad.
Nice.
Just being silly. So I don't know. I guess I'm coming to a blank mind. I don't know what else to say about this topic, honestly. Has it run its course?
I don't know. I mean, does anybody have anything else they want to say about self-care, or any questions, concerns?
Yeah. I don't know. I just think, Jackie pointed out, she said that she doesn't know why it's difficult, because don't we all have things that we have to quit doing that make us happy and feel good? So it's like, if people struggle with what self-care is, it really shouldn't be that difficult. It's just that, after I know for me, when in early recovery, I think I was all about getting my basics kind of taken care of, but it didn't take that much longer before I started adding things to my life, like, friendships. And that was important for me, just hanging out with people. And that probably wasn't necessarily quote, like my recovery program or anything, but, hanging out with people, going to movies, making friends. Those were things that were helping me. And so, yeah, I guess I could consider that. And Peter says he loves Living Sober. There's always Living Sober, chapter 16, being good to yourself. That book was kind of ahead of its time, wasn't it? At least ahead of A's
time.
Yeah. I think Bob's right. The whole idea of recovery is self-care.
Yeah, I think though where it can get confusing sometimes is that as we recover, that our lives do get better, and then sometimes we either add too much, or we still have problems with balance. And so the concept of self-care is important, because we start to gain, ability in life. And so we can, write novels, we can do yoga classes, we can continue our education, all of that kind of stuff. And so sometimes, we go, the pendulum swings too far to the other side of, developing these new abilities. And so then, we start to wear ourselves out, and that's where it can get, slippery or difficult to remember, what the purpose was of getting sober, and where we start to fade our memories of how bad it was, because look at how much we've accomplished now, and, things like that. So I think it can be difficult. Also, I notice with myself and others sometimes is we shit ourselves a lot, like particularly regarding Netflix or playing games or whatever it is, that we shouldn't be doing that. We should be doing something more productive. And I find myself in that a lot more, that, I shouldn't be sitting here coloring when I can, be doing this or helping this person, or, some sort of other thing that is more productive. But no, sometimes I need to just sit, and listen to a podcast or music or whatever, and hang out. And so, learning, I think the big thing with self-care is learning what it is for you, and what it means to you, and what a balance is. So, when it comes up, it's like, a cue to me, I think, to look at where I have my attention, and what do I need to do at whatever point this is to bring myself into balance. And sometimes when there's so much going on, like right now, yeah, it's difficult to know what the best thing is to do, and where to put my energy or how to regain energy
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And
Listening
so,
to
yeah.
you and some of the comments that Paula has made, like she says that this is really helpful for her with the election coming up, and you mentioned that,
Mhm.
and you also mentioned
Yeah.
how designing the cookies also and the novel would help you
Mhm.
focus your attention on something else.
Mhm.
And I do the same damn thing. Like, I think what it is like in this world that we live in today, there's just it's so easy to get information. It just comes at you,
Mhm.
whether you got your cell phone and you're on social
Mhm.
media or you're watching cable news or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just coming at you, and there's so much going on right now that it can be very, very stressful. And so, doing something like watching a Netflix movie actually is
Mhm.
kind of, for me, like I did that today. I telling you, I was watching,
Mhm.
what was that? It was what's it called again? I can't remember. It
The
was Queen's
Queen's
Gambit. The
Gambit.
Queen's Gambit. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was totally engrossed in that story and
Mhm.
not thinking about all the other stuff like what's going on at work or the pending conflict or
Yeah.
whatever was going to be coming up, whatever's going to be going on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, and yeah, that's an important thing of thinking of self-care is that sometimes it is just doing the stuff to relax and
Mm-hmm.
so it's not necessarily a negative thing
Mm-mm.
to have it be, looking in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just having some awareness though that, there are
Oh,
times
Sam.
for that, and then there are some times when, we need to actually look at whatever a problem is. But it's my opinion that right now is more of a keeping your head above water type of a thing, and and so whatever you need to do for that, that's within the realm of law and things like that. So if it's killing somebody, then no, I don't think
Yeah.
that that's what you should do to relax right now.
Yeah.
Unless you send me a list of who it is, and then I'll approve, on a case by case basis.
Sam says, finding balance is the crux of recovery and life for me. I am constantly fluctuating between engaging in many activities and getting overwhelmed. I can relate to that. I do
Oh
that too.
yeah,
And stepping
yeah,
back and
definitely.
relaxing. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just stopped hosting two meetings this
Oh,
week.
really?
Yeah, so it probably needed to happen because I
Yeah.
was, hosting three meetings a week, and then doing this with you, and then sometimes once a month we do another one. And yeah, and it turned out there was a small incident on the Sunday one, which isn't a secular meeting,
Oh,
that somebody was unhappy with how I had handled a situation, and so I gave them all the information that they needed to be able to run the meeting for themselves and make those decisions on their own, since it wasn't my actual meeting. And so they're going to do that.
cool.
And then I realized at that time that, wow, I didn't know that I'd react that way, or that I'd have a resentment, but I guess I kind of am doing a lot. So what's going to be the best thing for me going forward? And I had committed to NaNoWriMo, so I decided that I was just going to run the Thursday meeting and do this, and yeah, and then all the other responsibilities I have in
Mm-hmm.
life. But as far as AA, those are the main things that I needed to do this week, was to let a couple of those things go, and it gives other people the opportunity to step in and do stuff, because sometimes they want to, and I just need to give them the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. There are people out there that will do, that will fill in, that would love to do that, love to have that opportunity. That's like this website thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think we found someone who has the time, the talent, the ability, and that's what it takes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great opportunity for someone for it to be an outlet, a positive outlet.
Right.
But if you're already saddled down with a lot of other stuff, it's not an
Mm-hmm.
ideal thing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, I
Jen,
love going down the YouTube music videos rabbit
oh
hole.
man, I did
I
that.
Yeah, I did that the other day. I posted it.
Uh-huh.
It was Temple of the Dog. that the old song and video. And so I went on a Chris Cornell type of a journey, and then was watching reaction videos. So I was doing the thing that I used to be annoyed with the kids doing, where I'd see them watching a YouTube video of somebody playing a game rather than, playing a game or whatever. I'm like, that is just weird. And then here I am watching people watch videos. And so it was entertaining though, and it was interesting to hear different people's perspective on different songs. And at in the space of time that we're in right now, we don't generally have that opportunity to just sit and chat about music or things like that you would do after a meeting, or if you get together with your friend for lunch or something like that. So it's kind of a way to get some of that interaction or perspective on different music in a different way. So
I did that last weekend. I listened to 70s music on the on YouTube, and I don't know, it just took me back to my high school years, I guess. I don't know, I enjoy it. Was kind of a diversion. I think we're all seeking a diversion right now. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a coping thing.
Yeah.
And so for those of us in recovery, most of the traditional meetings, I hear people say, well, if you didn't take a drink today, then it was a good day and stuff, which, it on a base level is true. Yeah. And so I think that everything that's going on is very, very activating right now. And people are pushing buttons to make it even more so on us. And so doing things that are distracting or that are not buying into that is probably the healthiest thing we can do right now, is watching shows or, listening to music, things that aren't causing us to react poorly to what's going on, to treat our family members any worse, or to contribute to the problem in some sort of way. So getting through, this next month will be something that will require a lot of self-care, I think.
Yeah. As the company I work for, they have this year been big about well-being, being a big part of what is important for employees.
Yeah.
And they're also, one of the things that they say is that they always relate it to the if a plane's crashing, with when the oxygen mask drops down, put on your own oxygen first. They're always saying that I'm going to go ahead and put something on. Oh, so I'm replaying it already. Très belle chanson. Anyway, this is the song, Joe, that's stuck in your head. The link to it, anyway. I was reading the New York Times, and there was this op-ed. This song has been around for a while. Joan Baez wrote it, but it's the president saying "Amazing Grace," and boy, I listened to that like 3 or 4 times the other night, and it just brings tears to my eyes. Just beautiful song. Anyway, Joe had it stuck in his head because I posted it on Facebook, and then Joe listened to it, and he's like, he can't get it out of his head now. So there you go, Joe. Well, Angela, I think we're coming up on an hour. We're at 57 minutes now, so I guess I could kind of wind things up. So we'll have to come up with a topic next week or have a guest next week. If anybody has any ideas of what we can discuss for our live stream next week, please, post it on Facebook or send us an email. Let us know. So we're always looking for something interesting to talk about, and maybe having a guest on. So just let us know if you have any ideas on that. And everybody take care of yourselves,
take care this week.
Definitely. So, okay, I don't really have any music to play because I redid my thing.
Oh.
That's not a good music. So anyway, I don't have anything to play. So I'm just going to say goodbye and good night, everybody. And we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Take care.